Hello everybody and welcome to another round in the Radical Esports Cup here in the final season of 2025 here on iRacing. We're just 4 rounds away from the end of our season and it's our last trip into Italy here, our second of the season, and this time it is to Monza. Myself, Ian O'Leary and Ron Mounds will be in commentary with you this afternoon with Ramiro Agustin Cisneros behind the cameras. And Ron, we sort of talked about it a little bit last week, but I do wonder whether this circuit's going to be it is going to be a proper draft fest, but what kind of race is that going to create for us? Is there almost too much draft for the drivers out there tonight?
Yeah, I feel like this race is going to be very similar to the ones that we've seen in the past at Spa. Another draft-heavy racetrack for these Radical SR10s. Gonna be frenetic, going to be hair-raising for these racers out there on the circuit, and may see some tempers flare. I think of all the rounds throughout this very competitive and intriguing season, this will probably be the one where patience will prevail more than anything.
There's the full lowdown on the schedule. Not our last trip to Europe, but that will be an even more of a draft race from Le Mans, Watkins Glen Road, Atlanta. Still to come, a bit more twisty circuits there, although they do have their own chances to slipstream themselves, so should be good to see. The current gap at the front of the championship, 154 points for Andreas Friedrich, who's got ahead of Peter Evening. Havik Gullikson has closed right up to him in recent weeks. Andre Castro and Heinz Braun round out the top 5, with Sully Reitinen 6th ahead of George Gonzaga, Sebastian Lipp, Paki Caruso and Rafa Blanco, who round out the top 10. And in our Racebot TV standings, Andre Castro is currently the leader after getting a second place finish at the Hockenheim. It was Sebastian Lipp's second win in 3 weeks, so he's up to 5th behind Havik Gullikson, Andres Friedrich and Peter Eveny. Sully Retten's outside the top 5 now with Heinz Braun, James Barry, Rafa Blanco, and Guillaume Berend is still in the top 10 despite the fact he's only been at one race and he won it at the Nordschleife in the second week of the season. That's how things chop and change in this series. Very sort of quickly and very easily. 24 degrees Celsius on the track at the moment in this qualifying session that is just under 5 minutes from its completion. And you do want to be up towards the front, not because it's hard to overtake around here at Monza, but we always talk about the first chicane, and it's going to be no different tonight. That run down towards the first chicane going to be crucial as ever here.
Yeah, I think the word of the day is going to be cutthroat. These racers had to be cutthroat in the way they tackle this race. Leave no prisoners. If there's any race where you want to make friends, Monza is at the very bottom of the list, especially heading down into the first chicane. Whether it be on iRacing, all the Forza games, the old F1 games as well, everybody has gotten a story of being sent off into the moon as a driver barreled into that chicane going way too fast. And the same can go for that second chicane as well. Good overtaking spots at the end of these very long flat-out blasts in these draft-heavy Radical SR10s, and the big stack-up as you head your way into the braking zone in cars that we know are always tricky as you have to slam on the brakes, drop the anchors, and get woed up into these very slow bends. So keep an eye on those sections of the racetrack for maybe being the ones that will send these drivers into therapy the quickest.
Some new names on the grid as well, by the way. Randolph Fredericks in 7th position. Bruno Vitorino, we don't see every week, up into 4th place. Samuel Fonuk in 5th place. A bit further down, some of the names we have seen intermittently throughout this season. It's a very big field of nearly 20, I think we've got here tonight. So, and a high quality field as well. Havik Gullikson's at the top again of this session. Christoph Lipp there is in the session. In fact, we do have 20. Leon Hernandez has not quite made his way to the line just yet. As I say, a very big field for us tonight as they come over the line now. Hernandez, 44.1. That's only just within a second of pole, and so that's a very long way away. Christoph Lipp hasn't got a time on the board yet either. Neither has Andre Castro got a representative one on the board. That's a bit more like it from Lipp. He moves up to 3rd place. So a good lap from him there, but actually so far it's Havik Gullikson who's quite a long way in front of the rest. In fact, he's over 3 tenths in front of the rest now.
Yeah, and Havik Gullikson, who got this year kicked off in style, I should say, with the championship in Season 1, looks to try and end it off in the best way that he can. It's Andre Castro going to take a big bite out of that gap, slip his way up into 2nd, just barely in front of Peter Eveny. Only 0.04 of a second, the gap between those two competitors, slotted in 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, I will say, talking about us running here at Monza for this round of the championship, the last time the Radical Esports Cup was at Monza Monza was all the way back in, I believe, season 1 or 2 of 2024, and we weren't running the first chicane at that event either. So this first chicane is always terrifying. It's going to be a venture off into the unknown for these racers too.
Christoph Lipp has absolutely got to improve his position from here all the way down in 10th place, just 4/10 of a second off of the top spot. Have Gulliksen. We'll see whether we get a 42 or not in qualifying. You'd imagine we will get them in the race, but qualifying so far, not, as Gulliksen comes through, Lipp rather, comes through the Ascari chicane. Pretty difficult sort of slalom through there before the run then down towards the final corner. And and the Parabolica, late apex, late-ish, for that run up towards the line. Fernandez very nearly getting ahead of Lipp, so he's absolutely got to improve from here, and he will. Oh, it's going to be pole. Lipp takes pole at the very end of the session, in fact, just as it ends. Christoph Lipp takes pole in the last lap of the session. He's had the last laugh, and he is on pole here at Monza in front of Gulliksen. It's a high-class front row, but it's Lipp on pole with Gulliksen alongside. Andre Castro and Peter Ivany then on row 2 ahead of James Barry and Bruno Vittorino, who then share row 3. Good qualifying there for Vittorino, actually, to get up to 6th. Same for Samuel Foniuk as well, who gets into 7th ahead of Sully Reitinen. Mehmet Barakakis as well inside the top 10. Number of good qualifyings here, pushing Andre Friedrich all the way down to 10th. Leon Hernandez and Heinz Brunn then are on row 6, with George Gonzaga and Francisco Sanchez-Buckley on row 7. Randolph Fredericks and Oscar Pesavento on row 8, and Ketil Larsen, who's quite a long way back by his standards, and Paki Caruso as well, who you can say the same for. He's on row 9 in front of Brandon Green and Dennis Kyriakopoulos at the back of the field. All 20 drivers qualified, and all 20 we think are going to race. And yeah, there were a couple of surprising qualifying. Some drivers a long way down compared to where you'd expect them.
Yeah, a bit fascinating to see some racers have some upsetting qualifying runs. I wonder if they had some off-track excursions in that session, maybe invalidated their time. Certainly easy, even though the track is known for being one where straight line speed is more important than anything else. You do have to keep an eye on those off-tracks and keep an eye on the incident points throughout this race as well. You could very well easily see some racers pick up some penalties, and maybe even a DQ, in fact.
Not many left to get onto the grid here in the background. And when they are, we will be ready to go here tonight. And here we go. So, racing at Monza in the Radical Esports Cup. Lights come on. Quite a long hold this time, and now we are underway. Christoph Lipp trying to cover immediately off of Gulliksen by just running his own line, not waving around, doing anything silly on the way towards turn 1, just staying on the straight and narrow. And there goes Gulliksen looking down the inside. Oh, and off! One of the Inerti Racing team drivers goes straight off the road, and one of his teammates goes off as well. Christoph Lipp is about the only driver in his team who's had a good start here. The driver who's crossed it again has come to a complete stop here, trying to let everybody through, and it's James Barry. Oh, he's had such success in seasons gone past in the Radical Esports Cup, but not this time. He's trying to drop to the back of the field. Christoph Lipp's going to lead here. Gulliksen's going to be second, and here comes Peter Ivany. He's going to try and take second into the second chicane, and this is a chance straight away on lap 1 for Christoph Lipp to run away. It's 3 wide for second place. What a battle! But are they shooting themselves in the foot here? Shooting each other in the foot, indeed. Andre Castro goes through. He'll get second for now, but the gap has grown a second and a half long. And Gulliksen crashes. He spins out of Lesmo 2. He spun in front of the field, and he ducks out the way just in time. He goes to the back of the field with James Barry.
Oh, that was inevitable with how hard they were battling. Fantastic racers, but they're just duking it out so hard. Heading off through into Sector 2 at the start of this race. That was going to happen at some point. Andre Castro, though, well held from him to just get those moves done, jump his way up into second, and drive away as a knife fight went on all around him.
Yeah, and it's a real problem now for the rest in terms of winning this race. It's going to be really difficult. Look at this battle for third now. Castro has gotten away from the guys behind him, fighting Braun, Reitinen and Foniuk, who's just pushing Braun at the moment, and that's probably the best idea here. Get organised and get pushing here, and that's what Foniuk's doing in the background here over the start finish line. And Reitinen's just going to have to pull out of it, but look at Gonzaga. He's not going to be done yet either. He's coming up to the back and So it's Hernandez in the orange as well. Braun is going to get third place, and Ponyuk is going to be challenged again by Ruttinen, who doesn't want to give it up. Oh, it's contact! Ponyuk's going to be spun around. Oh, and it's a big crash out of turn 2. Oh dear, Randolph Friedrich gets involved in one that wasn't really his fault, and Dennis Kyriakopoulos actually spun aside from that as well. Ponyuk's out the top 10, Rettinen's got damage as well. This is a decimated front part of the field from the first 2 laps.
As we take a look at what really kicked it off, James Berry with a cataclysmic run, hang down into the first turn. I think he just dove off to the grass to try to avoid making contact, hitting some cones. One cone's already up in the air. That shows you how it usually goes, hang down to turn 1 at the chicane here at Monza. But no, Berry having to dive off the track as quickly as he possibly could. No way around it. That was a heartbreaking moment for him, sending him right to the back of the pack. But he's made his way up to 13th, not because he's got rocket fuel in that car, which is down to the fact that everybody else just pretty much blew themselves up.
It's a remarkable start to this race. I mean, we've not seen anything like that in the top split broadcasted races this season, from my memory. Maybe even for some time. This is Gullickson's crash. We're going to see a lot of replays here, by the way. Gullickson just hit by Peter Ebony, who had to come in, by the way. So he must have had damage from this, but Gullickson, the one who spins around and has to get back going again. He's now 14th again because of all this. I mean, I thought they were trying to get themselves organised. I think Ponyuk was pushing Braun as if to say, you know, let's get single file and organise this, but just didn't happen. Ruttinen down the inside of Ponyuk. Gonzaga gets involved in it. Kyriakopoulos does as well. Eventually, he's to come to a stop and all sorts in the background. And it's just a big mess. Oh, and look at this rejoining on the circuit. They're ducking and diving. Andres Friedrich is one of those two for inert. And this is, again, further back in the pack. This is why Friedrich was further down. Look at that. A big spin through the second chicane. And look at that. Suddenly, we've got the top 10 covered by 12 seconds after 2 laps at Monza. You barely ever see that in any category.
Yeah, you don't see that ever. It doesn't matter what kind of car you're racing, you nearly never see that. So really just underscores the amount of chaos and drama that we've seen at the start of this race. It has been an absolutely horrendous start for pretty much the entirety of that inert stable. I think contact made. Franco Sanchez running into the back of Kettle Larson. That's hanging down to the second Lesmo, and that is gonna ping Larson off the circuit. As much as it's been a bad start for the inert team, the IGL coating stables had a pretty rough go of things too.
Dear oh dear. That was, yeah, that was pretty obvious, pretty slam dunk there as we were riding on board. You could see very easily what was going on there through those 2 right-handers. Well, that is a shame. Back to the relative serenity of the battle for 4th place here as Hernandez gets back past Mehmet Berat Akert, who languished down towards the back, I've got to say, a little bit at the Hockenheim race, unfortunately. But I scored points early on in our season here in our broadcasting race. He finished 9th at Imola. And that's his best result of the season so far. That was a replay of the one for Larson, which I think he's going to be replaying in his mind and being a bit unhappy about, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the second time thus far in this race that we've seen an IGL coatings driver get sent off the circuit, heading off to the second Lesmo. I'm pretty sure there's a there's a nice little quote for this. If I had a nickel for every single time an IGL coatings driver went off the track through there, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice.
I thought you said nipples then. That would have been even weirder. But also accurate, I suppose. Anyway,
we're not in Vegas this week.
Aki Caruso is going to come through to the inside. No, he's just going to wait. Pesavento will hang back as well. In 8th place, Gonzaga not that far away. And this is sort of the remnants of that big group and that big crash we saw out of turn 2 on lap number 2, really, where, you know, it's still a rather large group and they're still willing to fight with one another, but it's just not for the race lead. I think at the start of this race, I imagined it was going to be a massive group for the race lead, but that just isn't going to happen with Christoph Lipp out front, and he'll do well to not win this race.
Yeah, I think the best way that I could describe it, I'm shocked that I didn't say this right at the top of the show, it's very much so like a NASCAR-style super speedway race with this massive pack of cars, a draft being super strong. It either goes 2 ways. You either have that pack remain strong, remain tight-knit around each other, and you just see that battle go on and on and on throughout the race, or you see it completely break apart. Probably a better comparison would be a Formula V race. If anybody's seen Formula V racing on iRacing, I've had the privilege of covering a lot of it. But Formula V race is either just about 15 cars covered by about a second and a half, or it's going to be a field massively spread apart because they were packed in together and then drama broke out around that caused it to break up.
And there goes Caruso down the inside in this cordial exchange of places. With 10 laps to go. But look at that, 12 gains so far this afternoon for Paco Caruso. That is a very, very impressive effort from him. He's not been in the top 10 of any of our broadcasted races since Imola, which was week 3. That was now a month and a half ago. I think early September time. Early October time, that would be, a month and a half ago, sorry. Early September, I'm pretty sure it was last season. But anyway, there's Andre Castro in front of Heinz Brunt. And as far as our Racebot TV standings go, Castro is sort of the last one surviving. Gullickson's still down in 14th, and he's going to struggle to score many points from down there. We only scored for the top 10, by the way. He's not been with us so far this season. Andreas Friedrich's in the same group, but you know, they're very much going to struggle to get anything other than a top 6 here, at very best for those two. So it's going to be an opportunity for Castro, who already holds more than 20 points in our little standings ahead of everybody else, to extend that even further, perhaps even double it if it stays as it is.
Yes, Andre Castro, he is running quite good at the moment. He's been very quick throughout the season. Of course, he's your reigning champion in the Radical Esports Cup, won the championship in rather dramatic fashion last season in the season finale at Hockenheim Ring, which is where we were racing 1 week ago here in this series. That race was pretty wild. Andre Castro, though, very quick racer in these SR10s. I'd love to see what he can do moving forward here in the championship. I'd love to see him maybe run in the Radical League races. Over in the Americas Championship. We're going to actually have the qualifiers for the World Finals in a couple of days, as we got 3-wide action heading down into turn number 1. That's a worry about Monza. Can't even get the promos out without these racers assigned to throw haymakers at one another.
And another spin. Pesavento there, hit by Caruso as he just had a moment through turn 2. And is that going to hold Caruso back now? Because any damage around here, if it's straight line speed, aerodynamic damage, then you're in big trouble. Here comes Gonzaga through on Pesavento. You'd imagine he'll take Caruso pretty soon as well, who's gone deep into turn 2 here. And yeah, maybe there is a bit of minor damage on the front of that car now as a result of some minor contact.
Yeah, once again, the first chicane strikes. If everybody had $1 for every single time there was an incident hang all through the first chicane, we'd probably all be able to collectively pool together our money and have it reconfigured. As here we go, George Gonzaga maybe got to try and get a move done here. Always good to see Gonzaga out there on the racetrack for that inert team. Always a staple in this championship, as he's got to try and get that move done on Paco Caruso, and he does. Heading into the Ascari chicane is Caruso with a bit of a bad hit of the curb off to the second part of that section.
Yeah, this is a replay, by the way. Frankly, I didn't realise James Barry was still in the race. But here he is. Oh no!
Whoa!
That is so careless. I'm not sure who the other driver is here, but that's massive contact with the pit wall. And he springs across the road. Thankfully, he doesn't take out 2 of his teammates there, who were also running. That'll be Friedrich and one of the other inert e-racing team drivers. But that is massive contact on the front straight here. And James Barry will be out of this race, you would imagine. Now, who would that contact have been with? Brandon Green, I suppose, because they were running quite close. This is 3 wide into turn 1. 7th for Caruso in front of Gonzaga and Pesavento and Friedrich and Kyriakopoulos, who would have been the other 2 inert drivers, by the way, with James Barry. That was big contact with the pit wall there. And I've got to say, for Green, you know, don't often see him in here, but unfortunately that was a little bit careless on the front straight.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of empty-minded driving, moving around the track, heading down the straightaway as Barry tried to get that move done. The draft in these SR10s is so strong that the pace differential between a car punching the hole in the air and the other getting the draft is immense. So that's going to take the both of them out of contention. Really just a poor day all around from James Barry. Had that incident at the very start, trying to avoid making contact, and then this with Brandon Green we're taking a look at from his perspective. Yeah, there's Yeah, that's. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put that entirely on Brandon Green's plate there. You gotta leave room on the outside, because with the pace differential, if you have that draft, there's only so much the overtaking car can do in a situation like that before it's the car gang overtaken's responsibility to make sure that can be done clean.
Yeah, well, I think he would have done if he'd have, been paying attention enough to know he was there. But, so I'm not going to say, he took James Barry out necessarily, but he certainly didn't pay enough attention. And unfortunately, it's created a massive crash on the front straight there, unfortunately, of which there has been many. There's only 13 on the lead lap. That's 1/3 of these drivers gone, which is very, very odd. Mehmet Berat-Akkas and Leon Hernandez, meantime, to the inside, and Mehmet Berat-Akkas moves through. And this is the group, isn't it, from 7th place on backwards. George Gonzaga, maybe it's gotten a bit clearer of this now, but Pesavento and Friedrich are side by side, and they're going to be just about single file, just over halfway in this race. And I'm glad that we've not seen all the madness in the first half. We're going to get some battles in the second, because that is always the fear with a chaotic start like we've had tonight, that there's going to be nothing happening for the rest, but that doesn't look like anyway it's going to be the case here.
Yeah, I think we still have a smattering of battles throughout this field that are going to keep these racers on their toes and keep us entertained on this broadcast, and hopefully all of you tuning into the show here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network will enjoy it as well. Heinz Braun and Andre Castro, that's a battle of the giants up towards the front. Heinz Braun, always a driver that will be aggressive, go for the lunges, and it's also very good on the defensive drives as well. We've seen him all throughout the season really put on some defensive clinics, but that battling right on the bottom of your screen as well for 7th, still pretty intense, involving Pesavento, Friedrich, and Gonzaga. So to the inert drivers involved in all of that, and nearly coming to blows as they had their way into the braking zone for Ascari.
So again, this is just more like what a group I expected to see for the race lead, but in the actual lead, Christoph Lipp is miles out front at the moment. Braun and Castro, you've been seeing in the battle for second there, are just pushing each other around for the moment. Not in a shirty way. I mean, they're literally pushing each other around to try and get close to Lipp, and at the moment that's not happening really. A little bit wide for Kyriakopoulos, who's the last of the 5 in this group here. 3 of which are teammates as well. So you wonder if they could coordinate something a little bit here. There goes to the inside Gonzaga, but Friedrich actually isn't giving his teammate any help there. Unless he's going to... he will actually. He'll brake early and let Gonzaga in. So Pesavento could have kicked up more of a storm about that and tried to get into the back of Friedrich, although he's probably had enough of contact in this race already and didn't want any more. It was kind of smart from the inert drivers there, but that could have easily been, protested about by Oscar Pesavento in the form of that front bumper, but he didn't on that occasion. He's just let that position go, and he's now in 9th.
And comparing and contrasting from the last time that we saw the Radical Esports Cup run here at Monza, as I said, it was many moons ago, back in season 1 of 2024. It's actually the opening race of the Radical European and Radical Americas Sim Racing Championships for the 2024 seasons as well. I remember specifically there's an outright ban on doing any sort of bump drafting. Here in these officials, though, they can do whatever they want. You just got to be a little bit wary about those incident points making car-to-car contact, but that is the name of the game, and these drivers are going to try and play that game as well as they possibly can as we get into the final 5 laps of this race. Christoph Lipp driving off into the sunset with a 5-second gap between himself and the pack of Heinz Braun and Andre Castro, still battling for the final 2 podium spots. But all throughout this field, everybody I think should probably walk out of this, much like Election Day where you get an I voted sticker. I think these drivers should get an I survived sticker when they leave this race.
Yeah, at the moment, 16 of them will do. Tamir Poniuk actually is the last of the drivers to actually lumber out of the pit lane with a damaged car and try and complete this race, and fair play to him for that. I guess that's because there are some drivers who have pitted and are out in front. Barry and Green's crash has certainly motivated a few to come back out, I think, as Friedrich and Gonzaga go side by side to try and protect their own places, and that was pretty well done as well. Oh no, it's oh dear, it's a stack up. And Paki Caruso is going to be slow off the second corner. That wasn't in their plans. The smart part was allowing Friedrich through in a side-by-side moment to prevent either of them from getting overtaken, and they're still 7th and 8th as teammates, but they didn't quite plan for the stack-up that happened behind, as Caruso now tries to regain that place. That's not going to happen just yet. Oh no, and in fact Pesavento now off through the second chicane. That's going to be a big slowdown.
Yeah, that is going to be a huge penalty for him. He's going to drop behind Dennis Kyriakopoulos, Paki Caruso as well, and keeping on the likes of Kettle Larson and others. Maybe got to close up that gap depending on how severe of a slowdown Pesavento has been whacked with. Meanwhile, we jump to this battle a little bit farther up the road involving Leon Hernandez and Mehmet Barrett Akis. This is a battle for the final 2 spots inside of the top 5. Haven't really given too much love to these racers, but running very strong. Hernandez with that number 20 on his car entered this race as a driver with the lowest I rating, which we are running top split. That's not really an insult. I think the SOF heading into this was 5,300 from what I saw. Insanely packed splits that we always cover here on the iRacing Esports Network and RaceBot TV. But Hernandez running in P4 as a driver with the lowest I rating coming into this event. That is a very impressive result indeed if he can hold on to that.
Yeah, it's always a proper race, that is for sure. On Friday nights. Funny Hook has indeed got his couple of extra places, so that'll be for iRating and all of that kind of thing. Staying in the game, and fair play to him for that. You don't see too much of that in iRacing anymore, sadly. But glad to see he's continuing that spirit. So Friedrich up to 7th place rather, with Gonzaga on the bottom of his screen. They're making progress, and they're getting closer as well to Franco Sanchez-Buckley. I said earlier that 6th place was the maximum for Friedrich, and I said it for Gullikson actually as well, though that for Gullikson is looking like a very long shot now. In fact, any top 10 finish is looking like a long shot really, but Franco Sanchez-Buckley is being caught by those two. Whether it's happening quickly enough, I'm not entirely sure, and maybe the last batters we're going to get for 2nd place, and even that's petering out because Braun is getting away from Castro.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see that gap break up. I wonder if there was some sort of mistake from Andre Castro, maybe a slowdown, because he is losing time rapidly just in this little jib-jab of mine. That gap has gone from about a second to nearly to a second and a half, as also the gap between Leon Hernandez and Mehmet Barrett Akis starting to spread out as well. We talked about the off tracks and how badly they can affect you here at Monza. Of course, getting those incident points and making sure that you don't walk away from this race with a disqualification or any sort of incident point penalties will be at the forefront of these racers' minds as an official series, so it does affect your license and ratings quite a lot. However, you also have to worry about the slowdowns, because in the sections that you can pick up a slowdown, it's gonna sting really anywhere, because unless you are going through a chicane, you are having that foot buried down on that throttle pedal and you're running at terminal velocity. So if you pick up a slowdown here, there's one word to describe what you are, and that is screwed.
Down towards turn 1 for these two, and I don't think they're going to run out of laps, to be honest, to get anything else, but it's his teammate, their teammate, Kyriakopoulos, who's in the moves at the moment. He's let, where's Caruso go? Oh, he's gone backwards, in fact, Caruso, but that's a lap car in between them. It's Pesavento who's going to try and overtake here for 9th position, coming into the 2nd chicane, for 9th and 10th. And he's not going to head down the inside on this occasion, although gets very close indeed. Pesavento picked up a 10th place finish, by the way, last week, so he would be improving on that at the moment if he's able to keep it how it is here at Monza. I think that would be a good return as well. Not too many drivers get back-to-back top 10s. In fact, speaking of which, Kyriakopoulos has got back-to-back top 10s as well at the moment in our broadcasted races. So, yeah, pretty impressive for these drivers to be doing that. For Kyriakopoulos, of course, he's on the footsteps of 3 in a row.
As we get closer and closer to the end of this race, everybody wants to try and just get a little bit more, whether it be winning at the battles that they're in, just try and close up the gap to others, or maybe even just set a quick time at the end. We've seen so many racers get kicked down onto their hind ends in this race that I think they want to bounce back in any sort of way that they can. Doubly so considering we are getting to the end of the season, so for those racers that are eyeballing a good run in the official series points, and most certainly our RaceBot points as well, if they want to try and win a 1 million jelly beans if you win the championship there, these competitors are going to be adding in a bit more importance as we get to the end of the season. Doubly so considering these racers are so draft heavy at the end.
There goes Kyriakopoulos through into 9th. And Oscar Pesavento down to 10th. Cazelle Larson not that far behind them actually. So he'll be hoping they really do go for it in these next couple of moments, but doesn't seem to be happening right now. I would like to know, I've got to say, and hopefully some of the drivers who are in the top 3 and maybe further down the field come to chat to us. I would like to know how many drivers have got damage at the moment, because I don't know about you, I feel like Andre Castro is quicker than this, but he, at the moment, is just being handcuffed effectively by damage he sees. I don't know where he would have picked it up from, maybe even lap 1, but to me, he's lost nearly 8 seconds to Christoph Lipp in effectively a straight head-to-head race in 14 laps. And he's let Heinz Brunn close up to, overtake, and then get away from him very, very easily. So I do wonder what the damage story is up and down the field here a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking back on Andre Castro's 11th lap of the race, because that's where things really start to fall off for him. It's when he lost the draft for the most part to Heinz Brunn a little bit farther up the road, because his lap times weren't looking that bad. Discounting lap 1, obviously it's a standing start, so that will be a bit on the slower end. Looking at the lap times that he's set at this point in the race, you look at the 143s, a 143.8, a 143.8, a 143.3, a 143.4, 143.4. So consistent, dipping down to a 142.9 on lap 10. Last lap, he did get closer, so he was back on the 142.9s, only 0.06 of a second off of his previous best lap of the race. But I think there may have been something earlier on that caused Andre Castro to drop back. I was looking at that lap where he lost out on the most amount of time when I was in the 144s. Didn't see anything of the sort. Didn't see some sort of off-track, a slowdown. Maybe just lost out on pace. It just looked like he dropped down big time as they had Av Lesmo into Ascari. But either way, slice it. I think Andre Castro certainly has some more muscles to try and stretch out leaving this race, but P3 still ain't too bad.
Pesavento gets that 9th place back again here. Kyriakopoulos might well give him a run for his money at the very end now, as he's going to come up to the outside through the second chicane. Friedrich and Gonzaga change places as well here, interestingly, for 7th. Pesavento defends well on the inside, and Ketil Larsen's not that far behind. And Castro now is caught up on the very last lap. Heinz Brunn has just let this one go a little here, and all of a sudden we might have a race on into Ascari. Oh, Castro probably had his best chance there. He doesn't realise it now, but that short run between here and Parabolica maybe just isn't long enough. I'm not sure that is a good enough exit either out of Ascari here for Andre Castro. He might well have a chance though. The slipstream's going to bring him into play. Heinz Brunn defends the inside as Christoph Lipp takes the win further out front. 7.5 seconds behind. The battle for second continues. Castro tries to turn underneath him. It's going to be a run to the line. He has got alongside, and he's going to get the place in as well on the run to the line. Andre Castro gets second. It must have been a late mistake here from Heinz Brunn, and he does it in the end by 25 thousandths of a second. It wasn't very much at all, but Andre Castro takes second. Heinz Brunn in the end is going to finish third. And that was great driving from Castro in the end. I thought he'd left it too late. In fact, he always intended, it seems, on turning underneath his rival there at the Parabolica and winning that race to the line.
Yeah, Andre Castro timed that to absolute perfection, and let's see the run up to the very end. Interestingly enough, I believe the start-finish straightaway where they actually time it is a couple of hundred feet farther behind, but nonetheless, you can see as they had their way through the start-finish line there. Insane stuff at the end of this race. Well done to Andre Castro timing that at the right time to jump his way in the second, and well done to the racers that made it through this race without a speck of damage. I think they may be few and far between this 20-car field, but if there are some, they deserve a heck of a lot of props.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a very nice job indeed to get through tonight without those kind of problems. Christoph Lipp wins by 8 seconds in the end, ahead of Castro, and Heinz Brunn 27 thousandths it was in the end. Leon Hernandez with a great performance there, finishing ahead of Mehmet Beradakis. They'll gain some iRacing from that, I would imagine. And some props as well from us. Franco Sanchez-Buckley outside the top 5, but then back to that battle from 7th place on pack that Gonzaga won in the end ahead of Friedrich by just 3 thousandths of a second. That was a photo finish there too. Denis Kyriakopoulos and Oscar Pesavento, the last drivers inside the top 10. Ketil Larsen just got there too late. Havik Gullikson, I think, was damaged from his opening lap antics there, unfortunately, and so finished 12th here tonight. And that, unfortunately for him, in our broadcasted races, is the second week in a row where he finished outside of the top 10. Paki Caruso rounds up those on the lead lap, and then it's Peter Eveny 1 lap down. Bruno Vitorino got back out there, finished 2 laps down, so did Samuel Froniuk actually. And the retirements, Brandon Green, James Barry, Rando Fredericks, and Sully Röttinen at the end of that race. Well, a lot of action came at the start. There was a decent bit in the middle and a fast finish there as well between a couple of those places, but it wasn't quite the all-out brawl, I thought, for the race win that many would have hoped and expected here from this race today.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be a bit more frenetic up at the very front of the field. Certainly the battle for second was intense. I think the main drivers that were battling there, the main battle for these drivers, I should say, was the one between themselves and this racetrack. I think a lot of people lost their cool throughout it, which, hey, it's a test for these racers. It's for their patience and their skill. And some managed to deal with the pressure fantastic while others cracked. But overall, I gotta say, an entertaining race here at Monza, even though some drivers will probably be very happy to never see this track again.
They certainly won't be in this season. In fact, they're only going to be seeing Europe once more in this season as we go to Le Mans for the final couple of rounds, or indeed the penultimate round, I should say, of this series. We've just been hanging on for a moment while the drivers get themselves in the waiting room. We can now bring them in. Christoph Lipp, the winner tonight. Congrats, Christoph, on a return to the series, indeed our broadcasted races, and your first win in front of one of our broadcasts in the Radical Esports Cup on iRacing for the final season of 2025. How simple was that race for you? Did it look? Was it as simple as it looked? Because you were on your own pretty much from corner one there.
Yeah, it was really easy drive today. For whatever reason, after turn 1 or turn 2, a gap opened behind me, and and then I could easily bring it home. Yeah, was relaxed.
What kind of what kind of a race was it today in terms of in a comparison to what you expected? Did you expect it to be a big battle, a big draft for the lead, or were you hoping that this would happen?
Yeah, I was. Of course, I always hope this happens. The first key topic is qualify good, P1, P2, to get clean through the first lap, and then always on such slipstream tracks, somewhere a gap opens, and you want to be in front of that gap. That it happened directly behind me was, of course, my luck this time, and I took the chance and brought it home.
Well, congrats on the win tonight here at Monza, and thanks for coming to chat to us as always at the end of the race as well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much. Christoph Lipp there, the winner of the race ahead of Heinz Braun, who just misses out in the end on second place, but joins us now. Heinz, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How was that battle towards the end there? It was a long waiting game for us to watch you and Andre Castro go at it, but finally you did, and you were just on the wrong side of it. What was that waiting period like before you could finally battle properly there?
Yeah, I would say Monza can be boring sometimes when you have to manage a gap. Or in the beginning I was really thinking, should I push him or not? But I was after a short while sure that we will not get Christoph again, and so it was a little bit a waiting game. And at one I was saying, okay, let's try it. Maybe I'm faster when I'm in front of Andre, but no chance. I did even make stupid mistakes then in the in the first 2 laps in front of him, but he was pushing me. So in the end I was clear that we will have a fight in the last 2 laps, and it seems he got a slowdown so that there was a chance for me to get out of the draft, but in the end I was too excited and made again mistakes, so he came up again. And then in the last corner, I would say I've left maybe a little bit too much room, but in the end it was fair, and it was a nice run to the line.
Yeah, it was exciting to watch, certainly. It's the first time in one of our broadcasted races on a Friday night where you've been on the podium since the first round of the season, all the way back in Mosport. But just give us an idea of how competitive and difficult these top split races are in the Radical Esports Cup, which I'm sure you're a part of many and have been this season.
Yeah, it's really tough, but it's also, and that is the most important thing, makes very, very much fun. So unless you do make a small mistake where you have to apologize to others, that's annoying, but it happens. It's racing, but it's really, really tough, and it's a lot of fun. And I think I'm lucky today because there's another qualifying race on Sunday on the same track. So maybe I'm lucky also on Sunday to maybe get a point or a place in the World Finals.
I didn't realise we were going to be seeing you on Sunday in the qualifying race. So yes, I just look at the entry list properly, clearly. But look forward to seeing you there on Sunday anyway, Heinz, and thanks again for coming to chat to us.
Yeah, thank you as well. Bye-bye, have a good night.
Thanks very much. That is Heinz Braun who finishes in 3rd place tonight. In case you're not familiar with what Heinz Braun is referencing there, by the way. Coming up this weekend, it is the World Finals qualifier event in the Radical Sim Racing Championship. We've been racing for 10 rounds in European and America's competition, and it's been all broadcasted live here on RaceSpot TV. All of the AM drivers have proceeded directly to the World Finals because of a lack of entries in certain classes there. But in the Pro class, the Europeans and Americans have been combined for one 45-minute race. There'll be 2 pit stops, so it's a slightly condensed version of what we've seen throughout this season, a slightly longer version of what we've seen tonight, with pit stops involved as well. So it will be a lot of fun. It will be happening. We'll be going live 2 hours earlier than we went live for this broadcast, wherever you are in the world. So about 3 hours earlier than now, if you want to work that out, on Sunday, wherever that is in the world. That is 7 o'clock European Central European time on Sunday. So very much hope that you'll join us for that. In this series, though, we'll be back next at Watkins Glen. It's our penultimate American round of the season. Here in the broadcasted Radical Esports Cup races, and as has been the case for the last 3 weeks, where Andre Castro has finished inside the top 2, he's starting to run away with our RaceSpot TV Mini Championship. He's now 41 points in front of Havik Gullikson and 44 in front of Andreas Friedrich. It's a very, very big gap at the front. So hope you'll join us again at 2100 GMT for this broadcast once again on next Friday. But that is just about it from us here tonight at Monza. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds and Ramiro Augustin behind the cameras of this RaceSpot TV broadcast. We'll all be back next week, or indeed on Sunday if you can join us then. But from all of us for now, it's goodbye.